Story 1. Am I the a-hole for forcing my ex to cancel his business trip to watch our son after his girlfriend made our nanny quit? I had a nanny, Cora, who worked for both myself and my ex. While my ex paid her, he left most of the decisions about her employment and how she would care for our son to me. Cora asked me if it would be okay if she could bring her niece with her to work while she cares for my son, as her sister was in the hospital. Her niece and my son are both close in age, so I thought it would be nice for him to have a child to play with, and Cora has honestly been a lifesaver for the 2 years she worked for us. Things were great until Cora called me to tell me she was quitting after my ex's girlfriend told her she couldn't bring her niece into the house, even after Cora had told her I said it was fine. I tried to convince Cora not to quit, because she said the girlfriend spoke to her so rudely that she couldn't continue working for us. When I called my ex, he agreed his girlfriend was in the wrong, but thought this would just mean I would stay home to care for our son and he would take care of us financially again. I told him he needed to cancel his business trip next week because our son is supposed to be with him from Thursday to Sunday. He told me he couldn't just cancel as the trip was important, but I was annoyed, so I told him that was too bad and it was a good thing he was his own boss. Then, because he had to watch our son on his days and he couldn't do that from the U.S. Now he's upset with me, and his sister told me he broke up with his girlfriend in front of everybody because he was angry after our conversation. Am I the a-hole? Kind of. I think you're kind of being inflexible here. Yes. He agreed with you. He agreed that the girlfriend was in the wrong. And he seems to have enough time to seems to have enough finances to be able to take care of things while they work out another nanny. Does this woman have a job of her own? Does she do anything else? If she does have a job, that might be something. But if she's just being taken care of financially by the ex, then yeah, you're kind of knocking his legs out from under him. He canceled a trip that probably would have made more money that would have helped support, and you could have had some kind of temporary arrangement while you found another nanny, and the girlfriend would have been put in her place, probably. And she seemed to be put in her place. She seemed to be let go as well as the nanny. What do you think? Story 2. Walk away slowly so we can watch, baby. I don't feel good reading that line. Years ago, I worked as a cocktail bartender and waiter. A group of suits came in and sat down, and I went to take their order. I got a bad vibe off them from the get-go, and after I finished the order and went to leave, this 30-something sleazy guy said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Walk away slowly, baby, so we can watch." I smiled at him and started to do an over-dramatic slow-motion back-away, keeping eye contact with him and smiling the whole time. I told the other waiters about it, and everyone started doing these slow-motion walks whenever they walked past their table. The best one was a busboy who deliberately dropped something next to their table, then did a very slow and spicy pickup like the bend and snap from Legally Blonde. They left pretty quickly. Perfect. That is great. It's great that this person had such support at work from everybody. I do want to see that busboy's bend and snap and see how they pulled that off. I'm sure that would have been amazing. And just getting called out by that. It's amazing. Just everybody doing that when that guy said that so sleazily is just screaming out, "You have no power here."
Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day.
Story 3. Entitled mother calls the cops on me for trespassing on my own land. Gets evicted. Cast. Me. EM. Typical entitled cow. Frank. Unlucky neighbor. The owner of EM's house and the father of EM's baby daddy. Grandfather. An 83-year-old farmer who takes no smeg. Cops 1, 2, and 3. Backstory. For most of my life, I was raised by my grandfather. Nothing was wrong with my family life or anything, just a few sets of circumstances that's a whole other story in itself. We live in a suburban area surrounded by woods, and he owns about 10 acres into the woods with the boundaries clearly marked by stone walls. One of these stone walls separated my grandfather's land from a cul-de-sac, and up until now, we have had zero problems with any of them. In fact, my grandfather was usually more than happy to give permission to neighbors who politely asked him to use his land, given they had a good reason. One of these neighbors had asked my grandfather if he could dump the sticks and leaves in his yard over the stone wall. My grandfather agreed, as he rarely uses that part of the property anyway. This will be important later. My grandfather is very healthy for his age, and still strong as an ox. That being said, he has a few minor health issues, including vertigo spells, so I've been trying to help him around the yard more and more, as well as just to stay active outdoors away from crowds with this virus going around. Recently, I've started the project of cleaning up the underbrush around the wooded area. A large pine had fallen a few months before and almost hit one of the porches in the cul-de-sac. My grandfather cut up the tree and removed the pieces in the neighbor's yard, but it was too deep in the woods to pull them out with a tractor. This led to me going back to that pine tree and trying to clear a path back to the house from there. I was behind the stone wall, cutting and pulling up seedlings, when I heard the glass door of the cul-de-sac house open and an angry lady storming out onto the porch in a bathrobe. She was much younger than a typical Karen, I would say mid-20s. EM, what are you doing here? You can't be here. Me, why not? EM, because you're trespassing, dummy. You think you can just hang out in the woods behind my house with my kids inside? Get the hell out of here before I call the cops. At this point, I'm just looking at her trying to figure out what to say. I mean, I get it. It can be a little weird seeing someone in the woods behind your house if you haven't seen them before. Me, ma'am, I'm sorry if I scared you, but my family owns this part of the woods. I'm just cleaning up back here. Remember me and my grandfather were back here a few months back to take care of the tree that fell down? I just need to clear a path so we can get it out of here. At this point, I thought it was purely a misunderstanding. EM, don't be ridiculous. Those were laborers my boyfriend's dad hired. You don't own the land. My boyfriend's dad owns all of this. Gestures with her hand. Now I'll tell you one more time to get out before I call the cops. Now I'm thinking I might be dealing with a genuine idiot, as outside our property boundaries, the woods are owned by the town water plant and don't have public access. But I'm also taken aback that she referred to us as laborers. Me, guess you're going to have to call the cops then, because I ain't moving. I don't care what you, your boyfriend, or your boyfriend's dad says. I shrug as I lean back against the wall and pull out my phone to call my grandfather to tell him where I was. He tells me he'll be there in a few minutes and to hang tight. She then dramatically proceeds to call 911 and tells them there's a shady individual on her property refusing to leave and she's afraid for her life. I start getting nervous at this point, even though all I have on me is a hooked branch cutter. So I called the police non-emergency number, briefly explained the situation as just a land dispute that got out of hand and that I am unarmed and waiting on my own property and that I have never left my own property. He assured me that it would be settled when the officers arrived, which didn't help my nerves. Just then, I hear my grandfather pull up and see him walking through the yard towards us. EM, what? Stay back! You can't come into my yard! Grandfather growls, keep your mouth shut, you dumb broad. He growled as he walked over to me and climbed over the wall so he was on my side. Grandfather, now who the hell do you think you are and why are you yelling at my granddaughter? EM, my boyfriend's dad owns all of this and both of you are going to get arrested for trespassing. My grandfather let out a dramatic, indignant laugh. Oh, did he tell you that? Well, you're in for quite a shock, and your boyfriend's dad is in for quite the talk." After them yelling back and forth for a few minutes, 2 cop cars pull up and 3 officers come walking into the yard. As soon as they do, she starts screaming again about how we have no right to be in the woods behind her house where we can see her kids inside. Cop 1. Look to grandfather. "Sir, do you own the property behind this wall?" Grandfather. "Yes, sir, I do." Pulls out his wallet to show his address. Cop 1. Eyeing his license. "Sir, this address is for down the street." Me. "Correct. But if you look on Google Maps, it shows the property boundaries of that address reach out through the woods and end at this wall." I hand him my phone, which already had Google Maps open, showing our exact location within the boundary of the property. Cop 2. "Yep, she's right. So what were you doing back here, if you don't mind me asking?" We explained the situation of the tree and how we were working to remove the remnants. Meanwhile, the other officer was taking a statement from EM. Grandfather. "I know the owner of this house. He's a good guy. I give him permission to dump his leaves and stuff behind the wall. But I've never seen her before, so I don't know where she got these crazy ideas. But I'm definitely going to have a talk with Frank when he gets home." Cop 1. "She's already called him up and he's on his way now. Do you mind sticking around for a little until he gets here?" Grandfather. "Sure, we've got nothing to do." The cop walked us to my grandfather's truck, where we waited about 10 minutes for Frank to pull in. When he did, he immediately walked over to the truck. Frank, grandfather's first name. "Hey, OP, what's going on?" "Someone was hiding out in the woods. Are you okay? Did you see him?" To clarify, we have had an issue in the past with people running from cops and hiding in our woods. It took a second for us to realize he thought that maybe EM saw one and we came to chase him out. Me. Not exactly. At this point, 2 cops are around us again. But being 2 old guys who obviously pose zero threat, they're noticeably relaxed and kind of let them talk it out. Frank explains that EM is his granddaughter's mother and his son had made some mistakes and currently both were staying with him while they tried to find a place of their own. He thinks maybe his son told some lies to make him look better. Grandfather. "Well, I hate to say it, but your son made some big mistakes. She's crazy." Frank. "Oh, you have no idea." The other cop is still talking to EM, who won't stop screaming about not wanting us to be able to see into the living room, especially my grandfather, a creepy old man. My blood is boiling at this point. My grandpa is the type of person who would gladly throw his life away to save a child. Any child. Even strangers. Frank heard this too and ordered EM inside at once. He told the cops he needed to have a talk with both her and his son about their living situation, but they might want to remain nearby in case she tries to call again for whatever reason. Me and my grandfather are given the clear to go, but leave our contact information. Found out later that EM was getting evicted for a number of reasons, with this little incident being the last straw. He's also filed for custody of his granddaughter because EM refuses to get a job yet still has money for weed, yet keeps asking Frank for money to take care of his granddaughter. I really feel bad for her in this situation, but I have no sympathy for EM whatsoever. Entitlement at its best. This was a great agreement with everybody until this person gets in and starts acting like the place is hers. And where does she get the idea? Well, she's entitled, so that's where she gets the idea of thinking that she has any say in anybody's property at all. Glad she got evicted, but where is she going to live now? I don't know. Where do you think she's living now? Story 4. Daughter threatened with expulsion over t-shirt. Due to the huge amount of messages and chats that I've received and the fact that people in our district are identifying us by this story, I've removed it to avoid being doxxed. We have no desire to go public, and we do not want this story of personal harassment to be attached to our daughter forever. Please leave us alone. And to the person who messaged me and told me I should have never had children and that I'm taking feminism back a step, Please reconsider your feeling of entitlement over my daughter's body, time, and life. Going public would have lasting ramifications for her social life and self-esteem, particularly if subjected to internet trolls and the like. She is not obligated to dedicate the entirety of her emotional energy to an internet phenomena. We're handling this without the media. And that's the story. Apparently, that's it. I don't know what's on the t-shirt here. Expulsion, I think, is a bit too strong for almost any kind of t-shirt. Again, I haven't seen it. I don't know what the message is. So let's ask you, what do you think is the most innocent t-shirt that would get someone or a girl threatened with expulsion? Let me know in the comments. Story 5. I was forced to eat at fancy restaurants for a month. Many years ago, I got put on a work assignment for months that required me to travel to New York City and stay every Monday to Friday. I was assisting a company manager with a project, and my hotel was near his regular office in the theater district. If you're not familiar, the theater district is heavily built for tourists. Restaurants are generally kind of fancy and expensive. There were not really any quick and cheap options for dining in that area. The company had a generous meal policy of up to $30 to $40 a meal for travel expenses. I did use that for a bit, but the food got too indulgent and kind of ridiculous given it was an extended assignment. Also, I was working really long hours and did not want to go sit in restaurants. I just wanted to go watch TV and sleep in my room. So after the first week or so, I instead went to a grocery store on Monday night. I bought some basics for cereal, sandwiches, and snacks, and some frozen meals I could microwave for lunch in the office. Cost about $60. I then took a few cans of soda from my hotel fridge to make room for my weekly purchases, and returned them before checking out at the end of the week. And that was it for food costs, with an occasional meal out here or there. I did the same for the next 4 weeks, submitting my expense report at the end of the month. You know where this is going. A lady from accounting called and refused to reimburse my expenses because $60 is more than $40, the max allowance for a meal purchase. I explained that I had covered 5 days of food, but was told it didn't matter. I then spent the next month trying all the food in the neighborhood. There really were not any cheap options. I went out to eat a few mornings, lunch whenever I found time, and dinner absolutely every day. I could have bought a few installments of groceries, but the once-a-week shopping convenience was part of why I wanted them. It had also seemed wasteful for me to go out for an expensive meal every night for long-term travel, but now I've been told that was preferred by accounting to my grocery bills. The next month, I got a call from my New York City manager asking how I'd run through more budget every week of the month than the entire month before combined. I explained the grocery situation, and he thanked me and hung up. About 10 minutes later, that same lady from accounting called me to tell me they'd pay my still not reimbursed grocery bill and any going forward as long as the daily amount averaged for the week was under the aggregate meal allowance. I happily returned to a more reasonable diet. Again, I don't think this is malicious compliance. This is just compliance. You offered a reasonable solution. They did not accept that because they were so strict in how they itemized everything and could not think beyond the numbers. And it just took someone else to explain, hey, he's doing you a favor, and they were probably chewed out. Hope they enjoyed their meals and probably got an idea of where the best spots are for tourists to get meals on the theater district.
Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.